You can see since 1985, the percentage of teens in the workforce has gone way down. But meanwhile, at the same time, the amount of teens taking summer classes has gone way up.
Teenagers are undoubtedly the luckiest workers in America. Companies are rushing to hire them and teens are grabbing jobs with better pay. But there might be a drawback to this trend. Small companies in America, including shops, eateries, and seasonal enterprises like ice cream parlors, continue to struggle to fill entry-level jobs, which are often held by teenagers. Yes, it's a crisis. Let's dive right in. Over the past 20 years, the percentage of workers aged 16 to 24 who are in the labor force has drastically decreased. Another significant decline in young workers was brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Since then, there has been a minor increase in the number of teenagers going back to work, but adolescent employment rates have not yet recovered from their historical low levels. The rate of 16 to 24-year-olds participating in the labor force has decreased, going from 65.8% in the year 2000 to 55.6% in 2022, according to the Economic Policy Institute. Legislators have pushed proposals to relax child labor rules and protections to enhance child labor participation in at least 10 states. In an effort to expand youth employment, strong limitations on child labor are opposed by some. According to Jessica Heldman, a professor at the University of San Diego, it may be advantageous to the economy in some ways, but it's not appropriate to prioritize the economy, industries, and businesses over the health and well-being of children. All of this points to the main dispute in efforts to revive the adolescent labor force, a battle between state legislators who want to relax child labor regulations and those who believe doing so will result in more exploitation of young workers. The windows of stores, eateries, and factories still display help-wanted signs all throughout the US, despite the fact that the jobless rate reached a 50-year low. According to Challenger Gray, 1.1 million more teenagers will be employed in 2023. That is less than what it was last year. Additionally, it's the lowest level in almost 10 years. Teen employment is also at pre-pandemic levels, indicating that those who want to work are already doing so. As a result, employers face stiff competition. Small businesses, shops, restaurants, and seasonal establishments are having difficulty filling entry-level positions, which are typically held by teen workers. Several state governments in the US are currently working to encourage youth employment by relaxing child labor regulations. The contravention of child labor laws, nevertheless, has increased from 2017 to 2021. More than 4,000 cases were found by the Department of Labor, and it was discovered that over 13,000 minors were being worked in violation. Additionally, it has assessed corporations with fines totaling more than $21 million since 2016. The Biden administration declared it would intensify its probe into businesses breaking child labor rules. As a result of this, it is leading to the main dispute in the effort to revive the adolescent labor force, a dispute between state legislators who want to relax child labor rules and those who believe doing so will result in increased exploitation of young workers. It was customary in America in the 1800s for children to have worked in factories, farms, and other workplaces throughout history. Children were seen by families as productive workers, and children as young as 5 years old assisted in farm fields that were classified as unsafe for children according to modern standards. There were many youngsters working in mines, mills, and factories at those times. Children in the US frequently worked in locations like factories, basically to poverty. Additionally, as the economy improved and the average per capita income increased, parents were no longer dependent on their children's earnings to support the household. According to the 1870 census, one youngster in every 8 was employed. By 1900, this proportion had risen to more than 1 in 5 kids. Less than 18% of all youngsters aged 10 to 15 worked between 1890 and 1910. Around the turn of the 20th century, reform initiatives spread widely. As attitudes against child labor shifted, early reformers pointed to a long list of health issues as being caused by the long hours of early labor and the loss of schooling. The Fair Labor Standards Act, which regulates and forbids cruel child labor, was passed by the federal government. It was generally seen as symbolic at the time, since for a considerable amount of time, both federal and state law were relied upon to safeguard children. Infractions have been tracked by the Department of Labor. Numerous companies are being investigated as a result of the increase in labor law infractions since 1938 and the heightened focus on these crimes. What we may be witnessing is only the revelation of long-standing violations. Just now, we are starting to recognize them. Youth employment laws that are relaxed will see fewer incidents, due to the fact that many of these infractions are relatively minor and sometimes involve teenagers working a little longer than is permitted by law. Some companies are being hammered with hefty fines. However, other large corporations are receiving fines for much worse infractions. It was discovered that 2 10-year-olds were working the register, cleaning, preparing food, and utilizing a deep fryer at Bauer Food LLC, a Louisville-based McDonald's operator, all without compensation and in clear violation of child labor rules. It has been determined that several well-known restaurants, including Zaxby's and Dunkin' Donuts, are in violation of FLSA rules by permitting children to use ovens and deep fryers to prepare food that is deemed hazardous. McDonald's chief people officer told CNBC that the reports were, quote, inappropriate, highly upsetting, and went against the high standards we have for the whole McDonald's brand. In reaction to that particular occurrence, younger team members can obtain useful work experience, a spokeswoman said, but such labor cannot jeopardize their safety or obstruct their studies. Such transgressions have revived the debate between proponents of stricter child labor rules and those who are opposed to them. Government-run youth employment initiatives are experiencing a high demand for possibilities despite the ongoing conflict. The CD oversees the biggest youth employment initiative in the nation. In a 6-week program, we employ over 100,000 youth with their corporate partners. A real estate investment trust called SI Green is situated in the center of New York City partners with the program. They have employees that work in customer service, operations, marketing, and other forward-looking positions that provide them the ability to engage with the public, but more significantly, allow them to truly focus on their areas of interest. The federal government permits 14-year-olds and older teenagers to work in offices and clerical jobs, as well as in the kitchen using an electric or gas grill with no open flames, cashiering, price marking, and bagging. However, the requirements for getting a job at 14 and joining a payroll vary by state. In certain states, all you need to establish your age is a document. In others, a form from your school is required. The argument over child labor legislation, Glenn Burham, the head of human resources at Grotto Pizza, claimed that the high level of competition made it difficult to hire teenagers. Teenagers today appear to be far more aware of the flexibility in their occupations, the pay they will receive, and the actual work environment. They do, however, possess a certain amount of power in that they can simply find another job down the road, even though if they don't like doing what their boss is telling them to do, even though it is a necessary component of the job. At least 10 states have approved or initiated legislation to limit child labor. In addition to loosening some of these heavy constraints on teen work, we may reduce labor shortages by promoting immigration and opening our borders to newcomers, a situation where immigration is encouraged and work hurdles for teens are lowered. When there are worker shortages or firms are trying to minimize costs by hiring workers who are less inclined to fight for fair salaries or improved working conditions, children shouldn't be the ones who keep industries afloat. A slippery slope towards increasing exploitation of not only American children, but also immigrants and other frequently victimized groups in the workforce. According to proponents of stricter rules against child labor, These are some of the migrant children who were discovered by federal agents working illegally in a slaughterhouse, raising concerns about child labor in the US. One of the newest suggestions a state government is toying with is the notion of easing up on child labor laws at work. If children are forced to work at young ages in jobs that are bad for their health and disrupt their education, the cycle of poverty will worsen. Of course, there are long-standing regulations in place to prevent child abuse and forced labor. Therefore, adding more laws governing child employment is overkill and does more to deter teenagers from getting their first job than it does to promote any form of exploitation. We must strengthen the Department of Labor's ability to conduct investigations. To be able to enforce the federal law, they require resources. That's all for today. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell as well. Express your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time.